Strange morning. We had a helicopter hanging around for the last hour or so. I haven't turned on the news or checked if there's any major accidents or anything. It seems to be circling, so if that's what you hear in the background, that's what that is. I've been working on a post since yesterday about how the Republicans in the Senate are trying to pass some new tax legislation targeting the endowments of large universities. If you haven't been in the news, they called the presidents of MIT, Harvard, and Yale before Congress to testify, asking them, grilling them really, about demonstrations on campuses, calling for intifada and from the river to the sea kind of stuff about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that's going on right now. And their answers were not satisfactory, let's just say. So one of them has already resigned, and it looks like at least one of the others is on their way out. Apparently she's been caught plagiarizing some of her work. That's kind of the basis for the whole academic career. Senator J.D. Vance introduced some legislation to tax their endowments much more heavily. They get a lot of preferred treatment because they're special status, but he's saying we need to start making them pay. They should pay their fair share. And right now it's being held up in the Senate by Ron Wyden out of Oregon. So Wyden is a pretty lefty Democrat and has some horrendous ideas when it comes to taxes. That is the current struggle. Obviously none of us are running multi-billion-dollar endowments for universities, but it's a good lesson on the fact that we have to be aware of our situation and respond to changes. And my post is going to be about how small business people should be aware of tax changes and everything, but it applies more generally to the helicopter again. Circling, like I was just saying, we have to be aware of our surroundings. A helicopter circling like that usually means that there's a big accident there. I'm not going anywhere. So we have to be aware of our surroundings and aware of external changes affecting our situation. If there's a big accident on the interstate, you don't wait for large interchange between two interstates just a little ways away. That's part of our environment that we have to deal with. It's business. It applies to driving. It applies to housing situation. It applies to relationships. You can't just set it and forget it. For a long time, I chased the idea of passive income, and I came to the conclusion a number of years ago that passive income doesn't actually exist. Pretty much the closest you can get is dividend-paying stocks or triple net lease real estate. But even then, you have to keep up with things and see if there's any material condition changes that will affect your income stream. Everything requires maintenance, everything requires management. So you only have so much of any of those capabilities, and you have to use them wisely. Anyway, that's what I'm thinking about for this morning.